Wave 3 of the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass was off to a great start the moment we got a leak from the Wave 2 update where we got the first 5 seconds of every Wave 3 song in the exact order they would release in, and then they switched Waluigi Stadium for Maple Treeway. We had some amazing tracks in the lineup here, one of which of course being the first original tour track besides the cities, Merry Mountain, that also refuses to have a tour prefix in the game just like Ninja Hideaway, even though they debuted in that game years ago, and they keep pretending these tracks are brand new for the Booster Course Pass. Guys, no one believes you, please stop. Anyway, the reason this course was notable in particular was because it had half pipes, which were only in Mario Kart Wii and allowed players to trick off them into the air and allowed for some really great course design, and the fact that they were coming back was great. So to start us off with the Rock Cup is another tour city track, London Loop. Some people might understandably be getting a bit sick of these tour city tracks, but I'm still happy we're getting a great way to preserve them, and there's still some great ones to come down the line, all just jam-packed with landmarks just put into all of them. However, London Loop is pretty dead. It's another step up visually from other similar city tracks, and the added fog everywhere adds some lovely ambience, and the music is pretty good. But as I said, the track is pretty dead. There are chain chomps running around and lots of bends and turns, a market area on the outside of Buckingham Palace, but nothing really strikes you. The most notable thing in the track for me is when the chain chomps start running loose and you drive alongside one just booking it through the water. Next up is GBA Boo Lake, the third GBA track remade in this Booster Course Pass, and this one is their best yet. Actually, it wasn't even a lake, it was just a pit. It is now actually a lake with water textures that look half decent, various levels of elevation scattered all over the place, textures in general over the wood that makes the whole thing look a lot more pleasant than other waves, and they have a whole anti-gravity section implemented perfectly into the track design, contrast to Sky High Sunday. The only problem with this track is the short length, otherwise it's the perfect blend of a faithful layout and some nice innovation. To follow is 3DS Alpine Pass, or Rock Mountain, way worse name. And this one is a bit disappointing. This was one of my favorite tracks in Mario Kart 7. God, I played that game as a child and that was like 11 years ago. It was just amazing being up so high in the sky and gliding down across the abyss and over the forest. I was always quite fond of this one. But the visuals, we're back at it again in Plastic Land. It's just so embarrassing when the original 3DS version looks better and more detailed. But what is cool is the anti-grav section and the boosters. They're actually starting to try to adapt these tracks for anti-gravity. But otherwise, this track is sadly a fairly lackluster port. Part of why I love this track so much initially was the atmosphere and just like, wow, I'm gliding through nature so high up, high above the clouds. This is great. So it's a bit annoying that this was the one they continue to drop the ball with visually. But to win the cup is Maple Treeway, and they've really tried to make the style work with this one, and I'd say they did a pretty nice job. The music for one, where the original was quite calm and peaceful, this one is fantastical, whimsical, graceful. It's so lovely and exactly what I'd imagine a Mario Kart 8 Maple Treeway would sound like. It can be hard to appreciate the detailed wood and autumn leaf textures here, simply because the base game just would have done a bit better, like with these ultra polygonal background trees. Yuck, go away. But for the main track itself, I have to admit, it is nice. It isn't completely ruined just because it doesn't absolutely spoil you with the most gorgeous visuals you've ever seen. As for how the track plays, it's as great as ever. One of the longest tracks in the game alongside Waluigi Pinball, and I'm not complaining as this was one of my favourite Mario Kart tracks ever. It's got the cannon to soar through the trees, all piles of leaves that are so satisfying to plow through and snag an item, the big wiggler area to dodge around, and the half-pipe section is back in spite of its removal in Mario Kart 7, and it works like a dream. It's a bit weird that it's basically just an anti-gravity strip that boosts you upwards, but it feels awesome and feels better than the original floaty physics in Wii. All the more build up to DK Summit, the half pipes would be amazing in it. Please Nintendo. This track is pretty damn great though. I'm quite happy with this one, I say as I let out a big sigh of relief as Maple Treeway's back like it never left. Oh, and the bridge isn't there from Wii. Wow, they still have the glider section from 7, but I don't mind. Oh, and speaking of which, Wave 3 has made changes to the way the game works, making it so you can't lose your glider if you get shocked by lightning, which is awesome. No more bullshit target shocking, you sweaty online fucks. They also made it so heavier vehicles don't get as long of an invulnerability against items, so get shit on Waluigi Wiggler meta abusers. We got something similar in Wave 2 where they randomly made a balance change to the item boxes, making them reappear faster. All this stuff is great. Not to mention they also added the feature of custom items for versus races, which is also amazing. A great idea for fun custom races full of blue shell bullshit. So coming out of that little intermission and into Moon Cup, we start out with Tour Berlin Byways, which is a pretty chaotic track. It's very twisty with lots of changing routes and parts all over the place. Nothing quite as simple as just a backwards version of the same lap. Instead, we take all different routes around this central roundabout, once to a train station and alongside a nice water feature, then gliding over some traffic, all of which by the way you're driving with or against and all over the place, driving past them to squeeze through these islands and then around again through a park and crossing over the road you literally just went through, likely hitting some drivers on the way. Then you circle around some womps just trying to take you out, through the park again and under some thwomps to end it off as the banger music sends you through and over the finish line. I had a blast with this track. It reminds me in some ways of Wii's Moonview Highway, dodging the super chaotic traffic. It is awesome and very lively. Another great city track that joins Sydney that stands out super well. Now to follow is DS Peach Gardens, a track I liked a lot when I first played it in DS and then in Wii. And this track actually looks really nice. If you aren't ridiculously nitpicky about the super small stylistic differences, this really could fit in the base game of 8. And that's so nice to me, and with this beautiful arrangement of the theme, this track feels perfect in its atmosphere. The detailed shrubbery everywhere and these awesome changes with the statues of the characters everywhere in high res, it looks lovely. Wave 1 could never. To move through the track, they made a change that you couldn't go around the other way here, I guess to try and make people less confused. Sure, I guess, we've still got the shortcut here through the grass, and then the next set of garden beds too. Oh, okay, they made this part a lot smaller, which is a bit annoying. It shortens the track a bit and makes the track as a whole less of an active effort, and they did it again later on too. Oh well, I guess it's not the end of the world really. A lot of these changes aren't, it's still pretty nice, and they aren't completely game changing in any way. I wish however they had kept the item boxes at the end of the chain chomps in the large open area, but this area still feels great. It could be argued that the trimming of the hedges makes it feel less maze-like, but I also enjoy seeing everyone all scattered everywhere at once, and seeing everything also makes it feel bigger. It's a weird trade-off, but I quite like the new look to be honest. And they've added a piranha plant here to chomp you if you get too close, interesting change I'm happy with, but they removed the shortcut ramp and trees in the last section, which is a bit annoying. Wow, that was absolutely all over the place. So we do the whole thing again, but then on lap 3, these arrows appear. Oh no, what is this? Oh, we're using the unused path from the original to do the whole thing backwards? I'm not gonna lie, I thought this was pretty silly at first, but I think that gliding over the huge open part and giving Luigi a high five is what sold it for me. Driving through backwards is pretty inoffensive and something different to do in otherwise a pretty tame track, so honestly I kind of warmed up to the idea, because it's not implemented poorly at all, unlike my opinions on Calamari Desert's execution of a lap change idea. I think it's a fun bit of variety and I grew to really enjoy the track overall because of it. It sort of saves this version for me with the changing of the flower beds, removal of the chain chomps item boxes and the flattening of the end segment. Plus purists still have the first 2 laps to enjoy anyway. Now for one of my most anticipated tracks, Merry Mountain. I saw this track in tour years ago and never really got to play it, and thought wouldn't it be amazing if this was in the next Mario Kart game? And now, here we are. And wow, this one also looks great. The more cartoony style of the Booster Course Pass actually feels at home in this track, as it's actually supposed to be a Christmas, North Pole, winter wonderland. This track is just so pleasant. And here is definitive proof that just because a track has a different style, it's no excuse not to be super detailed, because wow, look at this lovely brick pathing with the red and green. Oh, and the cute little houses and stalls everywhere in the Christmas village. And the train sleigh combo thing starting out along the tracks, but eventually soaring through the skies. Guys, I feel like a kid again. We twist and wind up the path and it just feels right. It feels like Mario Kart 8, a pretty simplistic track, but it's so cozy and designed so well, unlike Ninja Hideaway's more sharp turns that could be a bit jarring at times, no matter how fun that course was. You can go along up the train tracks and trick off it, or just climb the snow mountain the normal way, and then you start to see the mountain of presents at the summit ahead. Over the bridge you go with these beautiful northern lights in the sky, and the train magically chugging along through the air. We drop to the snow that looks pretty great mind you, perfect for say, I don't know, DK Summit, please Nintendo, please! And then bam, we trick right off an anti-grav strip and then over a half pipe and through a ring of items, following the train back down the mountain on the second and final lap, gliding over for a lovely view over the town. This track has everything I could have wanted from it. It's new, it's twisty, it's the reason we have half pipes back. As corny as it sounds, it's a Christmas miracle. But no, we're not even done, because we're ending off Moon Cup with 3DS Rainbow Road, my favourite Rainbow Road of the whole Mario Kart series. My nostalgic heart can't take anymore. Sure, this track's visual style might not exactly be what Base 8 would do, but it's still nice regardless. The road is very interesting, I kinda like it. You can kinda see through it and it moves with these blue outlines around it. And it's got a very lovely PNG of a galaxy around it. Jokes aside, I really enjoy the atmosphere the background creates. So the track begins at Section 1, yes, Section 1, not Lap 1, hence why it's the best Rainbow Road. It's a true finale. Anyway, we begin over some boost ramps and then circle around a planet, leaping over a mushroom and trying to snag some item boxes over a wavy road. We launch over a gliding section and around the rings of Saturn, grabbing some boost spots ahead and then trying to avoid falling off the track onto the moon below, right as the music hits the N64 Rainbow Road motif and the sun glares the camera. You drop off to the moon with anti-grav as you trick off the craters and avoid some rolling chain chomps. Then the last section has you speeding along the track through this tube, all trying to go on the fastest route possible, and then you're shot through a gliding section, boosting through these floating star rings to end it all right before the finish. This track is an absolute joy. They knocked it out of the park with this one by the mere inclusion of it, and it doesn't look ugly. That's about all I can ask for. It isn't completely jarring. Sure, Wave 3 isn't perfect, but I'm really happy with it anyway. If we can keep going up with the quality, I'm really looking forward to next year's Booster Course Pass waves. It's a true gift to be getting Mario Kart 8 tracks, and so many of them throughout 2022. So long as everything is to the quality of the Moon Cup, I'll be happily driving along through 2023. And if it's not exactly up to snuff, I'll be sure to complain some more. But regardless of if that happens or not, I'll have always enjoyed Wave 3 as a lovely way to end the first year of the Booster Course Pass. It feels like a great finale to 2022. Merry Christmas everyone, and Happy New Year!